Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Hey, Russell, what do you call a demon who's addicted to coffee?
Caffeine.
Alex Jones!
Oh!
Who's wordy now? Who's wordy now? Who's out there ready to be getting down? Just me and you. Are you wordy too? Who's getting down with you? Listen, my friend, right to the end. We'll talk it all through somehow. You've heard the song, now come along. We're getting down and wordy now.
I'm Emily.
I'm Neve, and we're the hosts of Rowan and Pine. If you're like us and you've always had a little bit of a fascination with folklore, mythology, supernatural, spooky stuff, then our podcast is for you.
You can find us on your favorite platform.
We just wrapped season 2, but you can just dip in anywhere, from our witchcraft mini-series to an episode about Greek mythology or maybe a haunted object.
We also have a bunch of short episodes out there if that's what you're into.
Those are for things like the origin of the jack-o'-lantern or who the Sin Eaters were.
Go check it out, and fuck yeah, folklore.
Welcome to Getting Down and Wordy.
I'm Russ.
What
happened?
Let's try that again. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot the thing that I say
That's
every
hilarious.
single...
What were you about to say?
I do not know.
Right. I almost wish I
moving, and I was like, I trust you, girl.
Almost wish I hadn't interrupted you just to see what was about to come up. All right, go ahead.
Welcome to Getting Down and Wordy.
I'm Russell Perkle.
And I'm Hannah, and I'm also on the podcast.
On this podcast, we talk about popular music and language.
And etymology, and what we drink in the morning, and, you know, child stars turned regular stars.
Darn Nepo babies. They're everywhere. You just can't. They're like
I have no idea.
Like a pest infection. Just can't get rid of them.
I'm telling you, yeah, it's really, really wild how, like, blessed this kid's life has been, to be honest.
Yeah. So, of course, we're talking about whom?
We are talking about Sabrina Carpenter, and specifically the song Espresso.
And, of course, she is the daughter of Karen Carpenter of Carpenters. Yes.
Not quite, but she is the niece of Bart Simpson.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah, it's always like, it's wild that this, the voice actor for Bart Simpson, the woman, she has like a whole career. What was she in? Oh, she was in, I think she was in You've Got Mail. As the bud
yeah, I think
or
so.
something, yeah. But
yeah, Nancy Cartwright is an American icon.
She's in stuff, and it's like you don't realize that you are so familiar with this woman if you, of course, grew up in the 80s, 90s, but you probably are. You probably are. And now we're super familiar with her niece as well.
Yeah, we're a lot more familiar with her niece than we expected. Before we start, Russell, I want to know, what is your karaoke factor on the song?
We haven't said what the song is yet. What's the song?
I said Espresso.
Espresso, yes.
Espresso.
It's good. I mean, I think it falls into the little bit hard category. So I probably wouldn't try to do it. But it's not that hard. And I think it's fun. Seems like people must know it pretty well because it's got a lot of plays on all the streaming sites. So I think it's great. I think it's up there. 7, I don't know, 7, 8, something like that.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I remember listening to an NPR show back at the beginning of summer before they had, I guess, crowned the Song of the Summer. I guess they do that every year, but this was like in late May, and Espresso had come out, and the NPR folks were all like, this is the Song of the Summer. I know it's early to call it, but this is the one.
Yeah, what better summer drink than a nice, refreshing, super hot, acidic coffee drink? Yeah. Yeah, you're
Espresso.
Playing, going for a jog, playing pickleball. Just chug some espresso. Yeah, be great.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not going to cause any gastrointestinal issues in 90 degrees.
I think it's a great song. I would not call it the song of the summer, honestly.
No, I probably wouldn't either.
Doesn't give me summer vibes of any kind, but
no, it doesn't, does it?
yeah. I was surprised to find I don't think I have heard Sabrina Carpenter songs before, as far as I could notice. I was kind of just generally aware of her, like you say. I mean, she kind of had her moment this year, which it was like when it's like this feeling you get where you'll see someone maybe for the first time and you feel like, okay, this is a familiar person. They've been around somehow. I don't know how, but they've been around. Yeah, that's what I got with Sabrina Carpenter. So I just assumed I'd heard her before. But I listened to a lot of the songs in her discography, and some of them seemed a little familiar, especially that Nonsense song. But I couldn't tell if I'd heard the song or if it just sounded like a lot of other songs. Because this is like probably my main criticism of her. A lot of her songs sound kind of like Olivia Rodrigo. She sounds a lot like Ariana Grande in a lot of songs. She just seems to be kind of like adopting other people's styles in various songs,
Russell, it's like you're reading my notes.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you, I hacked your notes. I've got them here in front of me. It's my episode now.
I can't believe you did it, because these are analog. I handwrote my notes specifically.
See, what happened was I actually drank so much coffee today that I can basically just like see through space.
That sounds like an awesome superpower. I love it. And I have been that level of caffeinated before, and I'm jealous.
Yeah. Did you have coffee today?
No, I didn't. I had no coffee today.
That's
coffee
so
hits
weird
since the brain surgery, man.
But you do the energy drinks, right?
Not anymore so much. I can't stomach more than like half Celsius on a full shift. Makes me super nauseated.
And you feel like it's the caffeine in there, or it's just because those things, they make you, even a decaffeinated one would have a lot of weird chemicals that would. And then coffee, even decaffeinated, has a lot of acid and kind of, so do you think it's the caffeine though? Like caffeine you're having a response to?
Every single caffeine drink I've had has some degree of like acid shit. So
yeah, hard to tell.
Until they invent like a caffeine pill, I think I'm just like off of caffeine.
Low acid caffeinated drinks. Yeah, I don't know if those exist for some reason. Maybe the caffeine itself is an acid. I don't know.
My mom picked up some low acid coffee. I had not tried it because I wasn't experimenting with caffeine at the time. But my sister drinks between like 4 and 5 cups a day. She was like, "This doesn't taste like coffee. I hate it."
It tastes very weird. It's like you could tell there's something missing. It's missing like some kind of sharpness, and without it, it just tastes really weird. Yeah, so because I tried it too, and yeah, it's. But I mean, if you're not used to coffee, like if you're not drinking it every day, maybe it doesn't matter. I mean,
well, that's true.
I don't know. Maybe
I did take a sip. I didn't taste any kind of difference.
That's funny. I wrote talking about like bad effects to coffee. I did pre-write one joke for this episode, which I never do.
Oh my gosh!
I was thinking about like listening to this song. I was thinking like next time if someone says to me like. Oh man, I'm feeling really nervous and like dready, like a little sick to my stomach. I can say like, "Oh, sorry, that's that me espresso."
That is cute.
Pretty good.
Oh my!
Waiting for my moment. Anytime someone has horrible anxiety and nausea, I can say, "Oh, it's me."
I'll try to set you up during the episode.
Perfect.
So Sabrina Carpenter, born May 11th, 1999, puts her squarely in the Gen Z category, early Gen Z.
1999, wow.
Also a Taurus.
So cool to be born at the turn of the century.
I know.
Turn of the millennium
Isn't it
phase, yeah.
Absolutely wild, right?
I was thinking...
technically, we're born in the 1900s, but you don't remember any of it.
Exactly, yeah. I love that. There's like a t-shirt now. It's like, be patient with me. I'm born in the 1900s. It has like a picture of like a Oregon Trail wagon or something.
I love it.
I was thinking today, because I saw the name Sabrina somewhere else, like I don't think there's a short form, is there? You can't call her like Breenie or Sab or something, you know?
Yeah, Brina sounds a little like briny, like
Brina must
old
be what
fishwife.
people are going with, yeah, but I know it's
Must be.
unshortenable, I think, you know?
Because you can't go like Sab.
Yeah. Or nah.
So she's born in 1999. She started singing when she was about 6 years old, which is easy when you're related to Nancy Cartwright and sort of like embedded in this sort of Hollywood Nepo elite sort of thing. And again, Nancy Cartwright, very, very famous, not a very good singer.
I wouldn't
not known for her
assume,
sound.
but there was that like there's that Simpsons album. What did Bart sing on the Simpsons album? Like Do the
What?
Bartman?
There's a Simpson album?
Yeah, I think Michael Jackson, Prince. It was like crazily well supported. Let me see. Simpsons album. It was called. Let's see. There's a few actually, but I think the one I'm thinking of is The Simpsons Sing the Blues. So very likely Nancy Cartwright did do some singing in her life professionally, you know.
Maybe she connected her niece with some big wig, I guess. Not necessarily Simpsons, although it is kind of funny. Simpsons is a cartoon, and a lot of Sabrina Carpenter's early success was based in Disney.
Yeah.
I
mean,
yeah,
you say she started singing at age 6, but to be fair, most 6-year-olds do a lot of singing. I don't know.
So true.
Don't know a lot of 6-year-olds that don't really take to singing much. Okay, so
And again, we can absolutely have a conversation about what a dream means to somebody who is born in that world and what a dream means to somebody who is not born into that world with those connections.
So just real quick. So Do the Bartman, song from 1990 album. The Simpsons Sing the Blues, featuring the voice cast. It was performed by the Simpsons cast member Nancy Cartwright, with backing vocals from American singer Michael, I'm looking here, Jackson. Do you know Michael Jackson? Does that sound familiar? Michael Jackson. I think of Michael Jackson.
Oh. Yeah, still no idea.
Oh, okay, well, that was way back in '90s, so probably no one that's still relevant today, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, speaking of like cartoon sort of kid stuff, Sabrina got her first exposure in 2009, and I didn't know that this existed. I think it only had one season, but there was a TV show called The Next Miley Cyrus Project, hosted by Miley Cyrus.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It was like a reality show thing they were trying to find?
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious. Wow.
So she was 10 years old and she got
10 years
third
old.
place.
But Miley Cyrus, I wonder how old she actually was when she started that show, the Hannah Montana show.
Yeah.
Find someone
I'm sure when we cover Miley Cyrus, we'll come across that information, but until then, it is impossible to know.
That's fine. Not that curious. Okay, so but she got third place. Okay.
Third place, but that does indicate that she also she has the connections, she has the family support, she has the sort of ability to become this sort of childhood star. And she really broke out, and I say really broke out because she didn't become like a real big thing until
chicken
like
pox
this year-ish.
or something. She broke out.
Right.
Yeah. This happens to 10-year-olds quite often. Yeah, so that's understandable.
So her debut, when she performed her first song, and this might not surprise you, it was co-written by Meghan Trainor.
It's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
It's not my first go-to
sort of,
for songwriter, honestly.
Okay. Her first song was called Can't Blame a Girl for Trying.
I also feel like you've got to have pretty low self-esteem to go to Meghan Trainor. You're like, okay, I want a song. I'm going to go to the woman who writes songs about being ugly and ask her to write me a song. It's like, I don't know. Interesting choice.
I mean, not necessarily a out-of-pocket choice for a 15-year-old.
True. Absolutely true.
15-year-olds have generally, in my experience, pretty shitty self-esteem. But I don't have the experience of being Nancy Cartwright's niece.
Yeah.
So it's at least nice to hear that there are some things that are universal no matter your class.
I mean, like, if I were a teenager you said like, so it would have been mid-aughts or so, or late-aughts, and someone told me I was the next Miley Cyrus, or even worse or better. Is it better or worse to be third runner-up to being the next Miley Cyrus? In this era where Miley Cyrus is Miley Cyrusing the hardest, that would be a big blow to my self-esteem in and of itself. She's like...
It's like Charlie Chaplin coming a second in a look-alike Charlie Chaplin contest.
No, but Charlie Chaplin's cool. Like, that's like Miley Cyrus, like, twerking with her tongue out, like, waving her tongue around. Like, that's, like, the worst
that wasn't
time.
until, like, the teens.
I don't think so. But maybe.
You don't think?
Maybe. I don't know. But...
Okay.
Anyway.
Wait, how old was I in 2009? Because I think I'm the same age as Miley Cyrus. In 2009, I was 17. So, yeah, it was before. The Wrecking Ball.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good for her self-esteem. Nice.
So, Can't Blame a Girl for Trying. I actually like this one a little bit more than Espresso. It's a much cleaner, less processed kind of sound. It's like, this is what she could have been acoustic. Or could still be acoustic. I don't know if she's going through like a phase.
You worry that perhaps now she's a cyborg and she can never go back.
Well, I was looking up stuff, like fun facts about her. I did come across an article that I put absolutely no credence in because this was not it was not commented on by her doctor.
It was not on Truth
surgeon.
Social, your only trusted news source.
Yeah. It was just this jackass plastic surgeon being like, well, I have proof that she had $40,000 worth of plastic surgery. And like, no, you don't.
No.
Fuck you.
I mean, I think like HIPAA, if he really did have proof, then he would be immediately disbarred is for doctors, you know.
Disbarred as a doctor.
Yeah. We do not grant you
Yeah, he would absolutely lose his license.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's also just such a mean rumor to start about, she's what, 25 now?
She's young.
It's a mean rumor to start. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the song Espresso is about, she says, so on its face, it's not exactly about espresso. It's very clearly a metaphor. And you would think that it's a metaphor for... What do you think it's a metaphor for?
It's like sex or like, like sexual excitement, arousal, things like that. Like arousing someone in the same way coffee arouses you in a non-sexual way, I hope. It's a little bit of a messed up metaphor because like she's like, she isn't exactly saying she's a sweet espresso, but it's very, very close in the song to where I'm like, I don't know if people are adding sugar to their espresso, but I hope they're not.
We will absolutely talk about that in the next segment. But she had her own sort of idea of what the song means. According to her, espresso is about seeing femininity as your superpower and embracing the confidence of being that bitch.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's definitely in there. I also get the read that it's kind of like she's kind of singing about like guys getting obsessed with her and her being kind of over it or kind of like not that she doesn't like it's kind of this unrequited love type thing, this classic theme of a song as well. Yeah.
In the style of like X's and O's and just I'm super awesome and I don't care about any of these boys, which you shouldn't.
Which, of course, we should mention this is like the second coffee song that you've done in a relatively short time frame, maybe like a month or two.
Okay, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, the last one that we did was Too Sweet by
Hosier.
Yeah, which... Okay, sure, fair enough.
It's just interesting.
Maybe I miss it.
Yeah, I feel like you really, it's like coffee is your Sabrina Carpenter, it seems like. Just as guys are obsessed with Sabrina Carpenter, you seem to be equally obsessed with actual coffee,
Rather than me espresso, it's espresso Sabrina?
Something
maybe?
like it, yeah. It's hard to fit that kind of flow chart together.
Yeah.
But yeah, something like
I
that.
am constantly too tired to come up with something clever about it.
I mean, some coffee would help, but unfortunately,
It sure
off
would.
the table for you. Yeah.
So, Sabrina Carpenter, of course, is not just a Nepo baby singer. She is also an actress.
What?
A Nepo baby actress. Yeah.
What was she on?
And this part is not to rag on Sabrina. It's just to point out how old we are. I hope you feel comfortable dating yourself a little bit. Because
as long as I don't have to,
go ahead.
much like Biden, I just don't want to have to say the number out loud. That's where I draw the line. That's my boundary.
I can't believe
that was so relatable. He was like, I have trouble even saying the number. I was like, yeah, I feel that.
Oh, for sure. So I'm going to go through a couple of things on her filmography. This is not exhaustive. And it ranked, like, it's from 2009 to today. Like, she has been in business since she was like 10.
2000, yeah, so about 10, yeah. Cool. Okay.
I'm going to list these. You go ahead and tell me if you've seen them.
Okay.
The first one is Girl Meets World.
No, but I was aware that this thing existed, but I had no idea it was her. I never knew who was in it.
She wasn't the main character. She was the main character's best friend.
Oh, really? Oh, but that's like,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's mapped onto the original one, I mean, in the original one, the best friend was like the cool guy. You know, he had the hair wings. He was actually like good looking guy. And then Corey was like the pretty unlikable nerd guy, you know. So I wonder if it's the same.
And I tried to watch a couple of episodes of that way back when I still thought I was capable of nostalgia, but did not hold my interest whatsoever. But from what I could gather, she was very much in the vein of Eric, the best friend.
So you had watched Boy Meets World when you were a kid?
I had. I think everybody who grew up in my generation watched at least a little bit. I was
wondering, because we were like, what, 5 years apart? Something like that? Maybe not quite that much. 4 years,
yeah,
then 4 to 5, yeah, okay. And, you know, I watched it, and so, like, I was pretty young when it started, you know, so I was a little surprised even that you watched it as well.
I wasn't old enough to, like, absorb the whole Topanga Corey thing the way that older millennials will. Like, it's the love story of our generation. No. But I'm also asexual and aromantic, so it just didn't... Maybe it just went over my head. The next one is Tall Girl.
Do you say Tall Girl?
Tall Girl.
Are you saying tall or call?
Tall, Tall.
Really? But she's very short.
Yeah.
She's, like, famously super short. Right?
I know. Isn't she, like... 5'2" or something? She's
like 4'11". There's something with the like marketing for this album that's not even quite out yet. It was something like just living as a 4'11" person is an act of bravery or something like that. It was like kind of viral marketing for Sabrina Carpenter.
Right.
You know?
So she was in Tall Girl and Tall Girl 2.
That's if a movie's ever like been begging for a subtitle, like a sub, you know, it's that Tall Girl 2 even taller, or like a Tall Girl 2 Reach for the Sky or something. Yeah. Yeah.
How about Sophia the First?
No. Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think I've heard of that.
I've heard of it because I have cousins that were like of the age that watched it, but I never had any interest at all. Work It.
No.
How about The Hate You Give?
Nope.
Adventures in Babysitting?
The original, yeah, I've heard of that. I didn't know they made a remake.
Oh, it's a remake?
It's a remake
cool.
or reboot or whatever.
Okay. Clouds.
No. I've heard of Clouds as the thing, but you know.
Heard of the Noun?
Yeah.
The Short History of the Long Road?
Nope.
Emergency?
Nope.
Milo Murphy's Law?
Nope.
This one I was actually kind of surprised because it looked, it was a cartoon and I was confused. It's a spin-off of Phineas and Ferb's summer thingy.
Oh. It's like new people.
Kind of a spin-off. I think they're a bit older than Phineas and Ferb. I don't really know. But it sounds like a cool premise because Milo Murphy is the descendant of the guy who invented Murphy's Law, and everything goes wrong for him.
Okay.
Very funny.
Good idea.
Horns.
The Daniel Radcliffe thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she was about 15 when she was in that. How about noobs?
No. I know what word
The
you're
Goodwin
saying.
Gang?
No.
Royalties?
No.
And the Unprofessional?
No. So I'm one. I think I knew one of them. Well, I've seen one of them, but I knew like two. So.
Yeah.
How about you?
I never saw Horns,
You never heard of
actually.
any of that, or what?
I had heard of Girl Meets World. I saw a few of those. I had heard of The Hate You Give because it was a novel. I'd heard of Horns because that was Daniel Radcliffe, and that's it.
Kind of memed as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if we should be ashamed or what. I don't know how successful or big these projects were. It's also, we're in this landscape now where it's like the way that people consume media is changing and evolving. And even like,
yeah, definitely.
It's almost I think for a lot of very young people, it kind of dates you that you've seen movies at all. It's like movie watching is not really a favorite pastime of most like Gen Alpha and young Gen Z people,
Ew, gross. What do you mean you sat in a room with 300 other people and ate popcorn and just watched? What, you couldn't pause it to pee? What?
Yeah, I get it.
And with that, I agree with them.
I kind of get it, yeah.
So Sabrina Carpenter does seem to be the latest, or one of the latest, in a series of very, it's like a genre of person,
I love that. What genre of person are we? I think we know, but I don't know if everyone's put a name on it yet besides just nerd generally.
Yeah, but I'm going to list some names that are going to kind of make my case. So the genre of person that I'm describing is like a child star who breaks into singing.
Yeah.
So the Gen Z examples would be like Zendaya, Ariana Grande. There seems to be a little bit more these days than there used to be.
Zendaya sings?
Yeah,
I have no
she
idea.
does.
That's hilarious.
The millennials, of course, Miley Cyrus. Also Hilary Duff. I don't know if you remember Hilary Duff. Generation X. And by child, Mandy Moore, more like a late teens. For the boomers, there was Leif Garrett. And, of course, the silent generation had Shirley Temple. So all of these people, I mean, nobody's a child star who doesn't have family who's in the business. Like, it's not really an accessible career choice to somebody who isn't born into that genre.
I mean, Zendaya, I just know about her. Her parents are like school teachers or something, but maybe she has other relatives who are connected. I don't know.
Maybe this is not a Zendaya episode.
Yeah.
Maybe if I go into it a little bit further. I am a little bit more familiar with like Ariana Grande, Hilary Duff. Of course, everybody's much more familiar with Miley Cyrus.
Mickey Mouse kid people, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Disney loves a child star. And when we come back, we're going to talk about something else everybody loves.
Including children.
Gross. No. Coffee! We're talking about coffee, Russell.
Nice.
Drop the needle on the Album Nerds podcast.
It's just the album nerds.
It's just album nerds.
Join Andy, Don, and Dude each week as they discuss albums from themes chosen by the Wheel of Musical Discovery.
Heavy metal guitar virtuoso.
Double albums.
Your MTV Raps.
The top 10 albums of 1986.
Uncover hidden gems, revisit classics, and hear fresh takes on your favorite records.
Exile on Main Street.
Some of what country music can do best is that storytelling.
This is a messy album for sure.
I just want to hear Floyd and everything, I think.
Born in the USA.
It sounds great overall as an album. I'm just not moved by it.
The Album Nerds podcast. Three guys talking music.
This is what we call freestyling.
Yes. That's what we call freestyling. No one else would call it that. Other people would call it find another podcast to listen to. Okay, so
Give it a spin wherever you find podcasts and albumnerds.com.
Getting down and wordy with Russell and Hannah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Welcome back to Getting Down and Wordy, specifically to the etymology portion of the podcast.
I'm back too.
And today,
In case anyone was wondering.
yeah,
But it's always in suspense,
Russell's back.
waiting for me to talk, see if I've left, see if I return. I am here. I'm here.
Thank you for joining us, Russell. We really appreciate you.
Yeah,
taking time
I like to come by, stop by every episode, more or less, and stay the whole time and talk a lot.
So today we are talking about espresso and also about coffee drinks.
Cool. Love
Russell,
them.
how do you take your coffee?
Black. Absolutely black. I think it tastes a little weird with cream and sugar in it. And also, I don't really do dairy, of course. And there's some things where like soy milk and other kinds of milks are good, but I don't find they really add much to a coffee.
An almond creamer. I drink almond creamer whenever I have coffee. The technology has come so far.
I hate almond milk. I hate it. It tastes so bad. I mean, I hate almonds. Like it tastes like wood. It's like wood juice. I mean, I don't get the appeal of almonds, honestly.
I mean, I don't really. We'll talk about milk in just a second.
Dusty wood. But so I drink coffee black. If I go like a Starbucks or something, I'll usually get an Americano. So it's like coffee plus water, espresso plus water, really good. Espresso plus water, and then it basically gets like a coffee concentration strength essentially together.
Yeah. My tongue cannot tell the difference between Americano and just regular drip coffee.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty true. I just find the Americano, it's like it's fresh. They just made it right there for you. So I find it tastes a little better usually. But I'm also not a connoisseur. I can tell when coffee's good, generally speaking, but I'm totally not picky at all. I generally just buy the cheapest coffee for my like every morning coffee.
Have you ever worked in a coffee shop?
No, never.
I thought that everybody had like a coffee shop, but I know.
I don't have the charisma or self-esteem to do any of these like public-facing kinds of jobs. The
You're
closest.
Fantastic. What are you saying?
The closest I ever came was I worked at a pizza place in which I had to answer the phone, and I made the pizzas and answered the phone. But otherwise, like people don't hire me for these kinds of jobs.
I worked at Tim Hortons for 3 years, and
how did
I
that
still
influence?
can't tell the difference between different.
Oh, really? Okay, so it had no
taste?
influence on your coffee taste, perhaps.
No influence on my taste in coffee whatsoever. When I went into Tim Hortons, I was like, okay, I'm going to use this opportunity to learn everything I can about coffee, and I'll be like a sommelier for coffee, and like I'll have intelligent things to say about coffee. And it just didn't work out that way. I know that I take my coffee double.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the one time I went to Tim Hortons, because we don't have them down here, like, I asked for a large coffee, and he said double, and I had no idea what he was saying to me.
Oh, no.
And, like, they just assume everybody knows what that means, and I didn't ask. I was just like, yeah, I thought maybe it's, like, double size or double fast, like on the double, perhaps. Yeah, but no, I know. It's kind of obvious once you get it.
Absolutely shocked.
Yeah, yeah, double cream, double sugar.
Yeah, I did make a horrible mistake, and this still actually kind of haunts me to this day. When I first started working at a Tim Hortons in my college town, I had a woman come in looking for a chai latte, because she was going to a funeral and she was really sad and needed the energy. And I didn't know how to make that. And my manager had stepped out to, I think she was sleeping with one of my coworkers in her car. But college town coffee shops 100% every time. I ended up putting a couple of chai tea bags in a latte cup and made her a latte on top of the tea.
I don't think that's it.
So-
I don't think that's how it works.
It occurred to me later that perhaps that was the wrong thing to do. And I still live with the fact that I made one of the worst days of that woman's life even worse.
Even worse, yeah,
So-
for sure.
If you're out there, I am so sorry. I know better now, and I will never make coffee for other people again.
It's like you pranked her, you know?
I know! Oh, she must have been so disappointed, but she didn't take a sip until she left the restaurant, so I don't even know.
That's hilarious.
So coffee, let's talk about the etymology of coffee real quick.
Sure.
Coffee comes from coffee. It was spread in the 1600s by the Dutch, who their brand of colonialism involved a lot of trade and a lot of, we found this island that would have a fantastic growing climate for this. Let's just turn this entire island into coffee or into cinnamon or into whatever. So the Dutch word for coffee is koffie, which is something that pretty much everybody has adhered to. But they got that from the Turkish kahve and from the Arabic kahva. Yeah. So the Arabic kahva, some people speculate that it comes from their word for wine because it's also used as like a social lubricant. It's much more likely that it comes from the coffee-producing region of Ethiopia known as Kaffa.
Oh,
So there's a lot of words here that just sound like the same thing, which is almost as good as PIE because it just comes from this really, really organic root.
So odds are very high. It's one of these words named after a place, which I think is one of my favorite etymology things. You know, these surprising place name word things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to be fairly widespread. Like most languages that I've ever been in contact with, their word for coffee is something really, really similar, like kava, cafe, etc. You know,
Cafe, a copy, like it's very clean, I guess, is how I would put it.
and now,
There's no mucking around.
yeah. I mean, do you happen to know in Chinese? Do you happen to still remember if they had something similar word?
Cafe.
Really, so fascinating. Yeah. Now in America at least, like there is also a tea called kava, which is totally unrelated. You know, but I would presume etymologically it's probably coming
Probably
from the
related.
same ideas, same thoughts, right? Some kind of stimulating
Yeah.
or some kind of affecting drink of some kind, right?
Because we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but there is there's much more of a coffee culture in Europe and the West, much more of a tea culture in Asia and the East. So there is that sort of geographical divide that's probably due to geographical conditions and climate conditions, whatever makes the best. Coffee is going to like coffee more.
Well, here we put all our
Surprisingly.
in the Boston Harbor, and to this day you can just like scoop it up and you have tea. You know, our fish drink tea, but
that
we
is-
don't drink tea. Our fish do.
No, gosh, no.
Yeah.
So the first coffee house in the world was started in Mecca in the 1510s.
Cool.
Is that older or younger than you expected?
Yeah, great question. A little younger, I suppose. I mean, like I associate coffee houses with like Age of Enlightenment, I think. Is that a thing? And that was pretty much later. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I distinctly remember like a professor once telling me kind of like, you know, coffee was a big part of like we had this sort of like they had coffee houses and you go there, you get really wired and you talk to all your like deep thinker friends and they had a lot of like philosophizing and scientific reasoning stuff like really seemed to have been very much powered by coffees and coffee house culture, which I don't know. It obviously it's hard to
Coffee
ever make a
houses-
causation statement like that, you know.
Well, coffee coffee houses actually do have a provable influence on the Russian Revolution. A lot of the communists and the Bolsheviks, everybody who was looking to overthrow the Tsar, they met in coffee houses. It was like this sort of intellectualism. At that time, it still had this, and maybe it's because it's the people that were just sitting around talking to their friends all day about revolution. It's very possible that it has this elitist connotation because they didn't have jobs that they had to go to all the time. So there's a lot of like stuff around that with coffee.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right, to read like Dostoevsky or Tolstoy or something, these like books about these like destitute 20-somethings, 30-somethings. They're like, okay, but why do you have an apartment and food and stuff? You know, it's like this is a little weird. Like something here is your poor is not quite the same as my poor, you know, in a very very important way, you know.
Yeah, I feel like poor is kind of going backwards to like not quite feudal, but it's
definitely
poor in a much different way than poor has been ever in his human
It's
history.
new. I think it's very new, actually. Yeah, because it's like even feudalism, they had houses, you know. They had a whole farm, they had food.
You didn't have homeless serfs. They lived on the land that they worked.
We messed up somewhere. We messed something up.
Yeah, somewhere on the way, and I am going to blame Alexander Hamilton.
By the way, the Pokemon coughing, same root?
Oh, I don't think that one is related because it literally coughs a lot.
Oh, it coughs a lot. Yeah, sure. Wow, I didn't see it.
And speaking of course, these coffee houses traditionally had a big smoking culture too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So the first coffee house, Mecca, 1510s. By 1515, it had reached Europe, just mainland Europe. It didn't reach England until 1650. And I mention England specifically because American coffee culture is very much influenced by English coffee culture as opposed to Polish coffee culture, Greek, whatever. So it reaches England by 1650. By 1675, 25 years later, England had 3,000 coffee houses.
That's too many. It's not that big.
It absolutely took off like a rocket. It did sort of course, are you familiar with something called the American Revolutionary War?
Yeah. I think it came up in my research once, and so I saw a little about it. Yeah.
Okay. So there is this kind of cultural difference between Americans and Brits. Brits ended up switching a little bit more toward the tea side because it became more plentiful and more readily available. But then they also started taxing the shit out of it for Americans to pay. And Americans were like, fuck that, we've got coffee. Mm-hmm. And this is just a fun bit of trivia. Do you know what a coffee saucer was for originally?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I described this to you. I want you to picture Thomas Jefferson because he was a big coffee drinker. Okay. Originally, people didn't really know how to prepare coffee in a way that was both tasty and social. So what they would do is they would pour this coffee into a little coffee cup, a little like tea cup thing, but it was too hot to drink. So they would pour a little bit of coffee into the saucer and slurp it from the
like a little
saucer.
Kitten. How adorable.
Yeah. So I love thinking of Thomas Jefferson like talking about the Revolutionary War and being like, oh, these rights that are given to us by our creator, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, he's like that sound that dogs make whenever they're licking up water, you know?
Right.
Or like he's trying to talk over all these people and they're all like making these sounds, you know?
I'm not gonna like make the mouth sounds because I think it's really unpleasant to listen to,
sure.
But I love imagining Thomas Jefferson and all the founding fathers just looking like complete idiots slurping their coffee from a plate.
Yeah.
So that's where coffee kind of comes from. And it does give us words like cafeteria.
Yeah, sure.
Cafeteria is, from 1839 was the first usage of it. It means coffee store, which is, teria is the Spanish suffix for something that is like where business is done.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about espresso. Russell, so your favorite espresso drink is an Americano, right?
Yep.
Something that I learned while working at Tim Hortons is that all these fancy espresso drinks, your lattes, your cappuccinos, your macchiatos, everything is a combination of espresso, milk, and or steamed milk. Americano, of course, is just with water and replacing any kind of milk. But it's just in this is kind of why I never got around to being a sommelier for coffee, because who has the fucking time to memorize what ratios of espresso and steamed milk and foam is? It seems unnecessary and a little douchey.
It's really like the modern coffee shop. It's really almost on the Taco Bell model, right? Of having three ingredients that you just put in different proportions and everything.
That's exactly it. Yeah,
it's true.
Coffee, the tacos of drinks. Do not drink Taco Bell coffee, though, unless you are really, really not looking forward to waking up.
Yeah, I mean, both, again, there's so much similarities. They both kind of make you need to poop as well.
Oh, that's actually, yes. Okay, so let's start with the word espresso. I'm going to go into everything else you might find on a menu as well. Espresso comes from 1945. Of course, it's Italian. Comes from the Latin espremere, which means pressed out.
That makes sense. That's the word press right there in it still. Sure.
Exactly. And a very common, the root, we have a PIE root here, which is just per. And per means forward or through, which is how you get press.
Ah, sure. Cool. Yeah, I like to say espresso.
That is in that is actually a
accepted
Merriam-Webster accepted pronunciation variation of espresso.
I love Merriam-Webster. They're so language positive,
They sure are. Yeah, they jumped on yeet.
Well, I
appreciate that.
I try to be very language positive as well, dialect positive, whatever.
I do my best, but please don't misuse an apostrophe in front of me. I really don't like that.
I think they're unmisusable. You can do whatever you want with them. They're very versatile. They do a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think we need to start making new contractions. I really don't understand why we ever stopped.
Yeah, I feel like we could use a couple more contractions. And I also, low key, I think it's hilarious when people use a contraction on the end of a sentence. That's just the kind of person you are. That's just the kind of person you're.
Yeah. Let's start it. I mean, it's still comprehensible, and it's kind of this funny. I mean, it could be used to make emphasis or something. There's lots of great possibilities for it. Yeah, I think it's we're just leaving money on the table. Get into these. What jobs can contractions do for you that they're not currently doing?
What can contractions do for you? That could be a good TED Talk.
That's my ad campaign. Yeah.
I would absolutely watch your TED Talk on that. So from this PIE root, we also get words like express, which is just when you squeeze something out of something, compress, depress, and impress.
Yeah. Impress. Wow. So you're pressuring, pushing something onto someone. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, to impress upon somebody.
Yeah.
That later became, wow, that's impressive, as in that made an impact on me.
Yeah, I get it. And express is interesting too when you think about this sense of expressing yourself. It's you're kind of got the pressure in the sense that you're mind or yourself is filled with something and you're like releasing some of this pressure, metaphorically speaking. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, isn't that cool? You also, if you're going to order an espresso, you also have the option of a doppio, which is Italian for twice. That's just twice the espresso. So a double double espresso would be like a doppio.
Which I don't know. It sounds like a sound effect in Super Mario or something, I guess. Go down pipe.
How do you feel about mochas?
I mean, I guess it's fine. Honestly, I find I don't generally taste the mocha very much in there, but it's good. They certainly pair well together. I am assuming mocha is chocolate, right? This is what it's supposed to be.
Somewhat. So, there in the late 18th century, there was a port in Yemen on the Red Sea called Al Mocha. It was famous for being like a trade route for coffee and for leather. So there was a specific type of bean that went through this port called the mocha bean, mocha bean. And that is different than our standard Arabica beans or our Robusta beans, which are the two types of beans that we generally use today. Maca beans had a very chocolatey flavor.
Oh, wow.
So these days, like when I was at Tim Hortons, it would just be coffee, hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Some people do it with coffee and chocolate milk, chocolate syrup. Oftentimes people put in some whipped cream just for the zhuzh of it.
Something about like imagining someone at home just like pouring Hershey's syrup into their chocolate. In their coffee. They look really unhinged. But it's funny to think that like cafes are doing this for real.
I know, right? So that's another one of those place names. So it's less.
Sure. It's fascinating.
Mocha does not.
It started as it was a coffee bean that tasted a little similar to chocolatey coffee, and so now we just make it artificially. I wonder, did the mocha bean like go extinct or something, or it's just more trouble than it's worth?
Yeah, so
to source it.
I think that it still exists in like a very small scale, but because most people drink Arabica and some people drink Robusta, a lot of the resources that go into coffee plantations are dedicated to Arabica and Robusta.
Yeah, that makes sense. Usually these like mass scale farming, it's kind of like you don't want to do a lot of different varieties. Your whole chain is set up for one specific variety, and it's like the fewer the better, right? So mocha's probably just like, we don't want to do another one. Let's just not. Is it worth it?
Yeah, and that's just another way that capitalism is destroying the earth. The biodiversity that we lose in coffee trees is just awful.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Have you ever had a latte?
I assume, yeah. I mean, kind of like what you're saying. I don't think I could tell the difference much, but yeah, I think I've ordered a latte before, yeah.
Yeah. This is a lot like a café au lait, which is pretty much the French version. In the café au lait, there is a little bit more milk. Latte started out in 1990, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, 1990 was the first latte. And of course, it was a cafe latte because you needed to indicate that it was a coffee drink.
Not just
at
milk
the time,
by itself.
Oh, yeah, because you were like starting the new trend in 1990. You can't just say, hey, have a cup of latte and expect people to know what you were talking about. It's cafe latte.
Literally the Italian word for milk. I mean, like if you're in Italy and you ask for a latte, you run the risk of just getting milk because that's what you literally just asked them for.
100%. And here is where I would like to talk about why milk is gross. So, latte, fine. I'm absolutely okay with that. It comes from the PIE root glog or galog, which meant milk. You get this in words like lactate, galactic, galaxy, which is from the Milky Way, because the Milky Way somewhat resembles milk.
Yeah, so when we say Milky Way galaxy, we're kind of saying like milk twice in there, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And there's I just learned this word, and I'm going to be using it, lactescence. It's like iridescence or opalescence.
It means like milky
but
color.
It's like Yeah,
Sounds
yeah, like a milky sort of appearance.
upsetting. I don't want something to be milky.
Do you want to hear an even worse thing?
Sure.
Lettuce.
What? Really? Lettuce comes
Yeah.
from. Is it because like when you cut it, it sometimes it has a little bit of like a milky, like a white.
Yep.
Ah, fascinating.
It's named for the liquid that happens when you cut it.
I'm so like sickly curious about like if you were to harvest just this liquid and you had like a glass of it, what would it taste like? I just intuitively think it would taste awful, but I don't know why I think that. Maybe it tastes good. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, people have juicers. I'm sure people have juiced lettuce. I'm sure there's an answer out there.
I mean, I'm sure there's a reason why they do not do that now. Someone's tried it, I'm sure on many occasions, but it seems like it wasn't a good juice. I think it gets pretty bitter. That's probably why. But yeah, that's fast. No, I never knew that. Lettuce and like leche and so on, same root. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And here is where I'm going to bring up milk, which is the word that English decided to go with for some fucking reason. So milk comes from another PI root, melg.
Melg.
And melg...
It's funny.
Yeah, it already sounds gross, but melg is a verb. And it meant, to wipe or stroke or milk.
Ah, okay, sure.
And I just think that is so much worse than latte.
So it was named for
so
the
much
process,
worse.
yeah.
Yeah. And basically it was this motion is what milk meant. And
it's like a jerk-off juice, basically, is what we call it. It's true.
I don't want that anywhere near me. Are you kidding me?
No, I mean, like, I loved milk when I was a kid and even into adulthood. But yeah, it's just like once you remove yourself from it, just this idea that like we're like extracting the secretions from another animal's nipples.
Secretions is also a gross
and then drinking them. It's pretty messed up. It's a messed up thing to do.
Yeah. Stop drinking boob juice. Gross. It's much better to drink wood juice.
Marginally. Yeah.
Okay, this one I think you're going to think is very fun. It's the cappuccino.
Okay. My guess would be it comes from cup or something. It's a cup. It's a cup of chino, and then chino is whatever chino is.
Interesting. You're wrong.
Oh.
So cappuccino comes from in Italy. There was this group of Franciscan friars. They were distinct from monks because they didn't live in monasteries. They were pretty much just go around and talk about Jesus. And they were called Capuchin monks.
Oh, like the monkey. Weird. There's a Capuchin monkey as well. I wonder what the connection is.
Yeah. And the Capuchin monkey is also named after these Capuchin
after the monks.
friars.
Okay. Because like a little
because,
guy.
Because if you look close at a Capuchin's head, it kind of looks like they have a, what is it?
Like a yarmulke?
It's not a cowl. No. But you know how those Franciscan friars would shave a bald spot?
Sure.
Yeah, monkeys have that sort of cap. The Capuchin monkeys have that sort of black cap on top of their white heads, which reminds people of that terrible, awful hairstyle. That should never come back into style.
Man, the commitment to God to give yourself like the least flattering hairstyle that can exist.
Well, they needed some help with the celibacy, I think. And
that must be it. Yeah, it's gotta be hard to do it and hard to maintain it in like the ages before electric shavers. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah,
so wild.
And it doesn't truly make a whole lot of sense to go with that as your ideal haircut. But Capuchin comes from the Italian cappuccio, which meant hood or cap.
Oh.
Because they had these very pointy hoods that they would wear when they weren't showing off their fancy haircuts.
Why don't we wear pointy hoods anymore? Is there something that happened that made us stop doing this?
I think there are some people that are still really into it, but nobody I like
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so we get our word cap. So cap and cappuccino are kind of related distantly. That's cool.
Yes. And cappuccino, it was named after the Capuchin monks because the brown of the cappuccino it very much resembled the shade of brown of these monks' robes and their pointy hoods.
Cool.
Which is the same reason that we call a flat white now.
What? Okay.
I'm just kidding. It's a KKK
That's
joke.
funny. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's a little walk to get there, but I got it. Yeah. So it's kind of like so milk is like jerk off juice. It's kind of like cappuccino is like monkey juice. But again, a little bit of a walk to get there.
Yeah, just a bit. Oh, and good news. Capuchin friars no longer wear their hair like that. They can wear their hair, closely cropped. I haven't seen a Capuchin monk, wearing long hair. I think they have to, buzz their heads. But for now, it's out of style. And let's keep it that way. Gen Z, I am talking specifically to you. You have brought back the worst hairstyles in history, and I don't know why.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Yeah, so we'll see what Gen Alpha does. But I think generations, there's only so many hairstyles you can flip-flop between. So it's what else is there? Maybe Gen Alpha will bring back the Catholic monk hair. I don't know.
They've already brought back the mullet. How much worse can they possibly fucking do?
I don't see what's wrong with the mullet. Mullets look pretty good, usually, honestly.
So I'm gonna, this one I'm not sure if you've heard of, because I hadn't heard of it. Have you ever had a cortado?
No. I assume it means shortened?
That's very close. It means cut.
Oh, of course. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it's coffee, espresso, that has been cut.
It's coffee cut with cocaine. Oh, milk. Okay.
Colombia does make a lot of coffee. So this is more of the Spanish version, but the word cortado is used a lot in Spanish. When you're talking about writing, it would mean choppy and disconnected prose, or something that's been chopped, something that's been adjusted or proportioned or thickened, or shy.
Cool.
And it's usually, in the Spanish preparation, it's generally just cut with the milk and the steamed milk. I think the Cubans really rock this one out because the Cuban cortadito, instead of using, just regular steamed milk, they use condensed milk.
Nice.
Because it's sweeter and creamier.
Good choice. Yeah, what's more decadent than condensed milk? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I also had not heard of galão. Galão.
Never heard of it either.
Which is Portuguese. You have heard of its root word, which is gallon.
Oh, like the measurement. Okay.
Yeah. And it's named a gallon because, and this is an interesting choice, I think. The gallon just refers to the milk. It's not like they use a gallon of milk, but because milk is measured in gallons, that's what they're naming it.
Yeah, great. Naming the drink after the unit of measurement.
After the container, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I do like this idea of
I really do love me a liter.
Adding a gallon of milk to your coffee. Yeah, it seems like a very, I don't know. It's funny. I like it. A little coffee in there.
I suppose it's not too different from going to the bar for a pint.
Yeah, so true. You're right.
Galão is made with a blend of Arabica and Robusta. Because of this, it's got this reputation as being a much creamier version of a Spanish cortado or latte. It's renowned as a much more creamy latte.
Cool.
Which I appreciate a latte. Macchiato. Give me a guess when you think the macchiato was invented.
I feel like this is very, very late because this is the one that's I feel like I at least had heard of. I also, because I only know it as a caramel macchiato, I always kind of assume it's supposed to be caramel flavored, but I don't think it really is. But yeah, I think it's late. So I think like 97.
The macchiato was invented in the 80s.
Hey, I was
The
right there as late.
1980s,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And what is it?
It's espresso and steamed milk and foamed milk.
Oh, of course. Okay.
Like everything else on this list. But it is Italian for marked or stained coffee.
Why?
So the coffee stains the milk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like they're taking a lot of poetic license to describe the same process 1,000 times.
I know. They're running out of ways to describe the same
Here
thing.
we cut the coffee with milk. Here the coffee has stained the milk. Here we've capped it with milk, etc.
How about ristretto? Have you ever had a ristretto?
Never heard of it.
Ristretto comes from it's like a short pull of espresso. Like a long pull of espresso is a lungo. A short pull of espresso is a ristretto, which is so typically if you work in a coffee shop, different machines differ, but standard coffee an espresso pull takes about 30 seconds. A lungo is when you keep pulling for 60 seconds.
Did you call it
so you get extra water, sort of.
It's called a longo?
A lungo with a U.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That's hilarious.
I mean,
nevertheless.
That is literally what it is in Italian, and I do appreciate calling it a longo. I want to go to I want to go to Starbucks right now and order a longo and see what they do with that information. So when you pull a long espresso or a lungo, it takes about 60 seconds, which means you've got 30 more seconds of that water coming through. So it's a little bit more diluted. On the other hand, a ristretto, you only pull for 15 seconds. So you only get the most concentrated part of the espresso. You get less of the espresso, but it is strong.
Less espresso, but stronger. But you're then going to pour milk into it. So in the end of the day, you get a less strong drink, right?
Yeah, ristretto is just the type of shot that will go into the drink.
Yeah.
And of course, some people who drink espresso straight, some people will drink a ristretto straight, some people will drink a lungo straight. I don't understand why people will drink straight espresso. It tastes like burning and...
Yeah, but, get it over with. Just drink a little thing, So I get it. I kind of get it. And then with, straight espresso, you can get the cream on top, which is the crema or whatever they call it, which is something you can't really get in any other preparation. So I get it. Do I do it? No. But I get the appeal, I think. But for me as an American, this idea of having a cup of coffee that doesn't last you 10 to 15 minutes, it's just sad, espresso, it's too little coffee. I want a longer coffee experience.
You want a lung coffee experience.
Longo coffee experience. Yeah, that's me.
And finally, on the Italian cafe menu, I have my favorite, which is affogato.
What?
Affogato. Have you heard of an affogato?
No.
It's a little espresso, a little gelato. It is Italian for drowned. So
wow.
It is named this. Yeah, it first came out in 1999, like Sabrina Carpenter.
Huh.
Basically, it's a scoop of ice cream or gelato, and you drown it in espresso.
See, this seems like if she had heard of this, the whole song would be that instead. It sounds way more like what she's describing. Yeah, a little espresso, a little sweet ice cream in there, and because decadent little thing.
There's another word for it, but affogato.
Pretty good.
So it just means drowned, and this is from the perspective, of course, of the ice cream, as all great stories are.
So true. Yeah.
And so that is these are all pretty much standard for European and Western and North American, of course, coffee culture. And I do specifically say coffee culture because coffee is kind of a culture. the way that we consume it, the places that we consume it, what we do while we consume it. It is very much a culture. My favorite is the German coffee culture has Kaffee Klatsch, which just means to gossip over a cup of coffee. And I just think it's like tea time.
Sure.
But
like water cooler talk.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. Yeah.
For sure. We are leaving out a little bit of Asian coffee culture. And I don't think that's fair because we call a lot of coffee Java.
And Java.
Can you guess why we call it Java?
No idea.
So Java is an island in Indonesia that was colonized by, can you guess?
The Dutch.
The Dutch, exactly.
They get around.
So the Dutch realized that Java, Sumatra, Bali, that entire area was the perfect climate for growing coffee beans. So after time, after the 1600s, over time, coffee just came to be known as Java. There's another word that we use for basic Java. I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why. Have you ever had a cup of joe?
Yeah, sure, of course. I don't know if I've ever actually said that in my life, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Right. You've heard it before. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it?
No, not really. Is Joe a place?
So I'm going to give you 5 possible
I know
reasons
the
we call it
answers.
Joe.
Sorry, I can't play
Oh,
this
you
game.
do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you let me know, because one of these, I've got 5 of these, and I have no idea which definitively to use.
Okay.
So the first one is from the 1930s, where just an average Joe would drink coffee. So coffee being the average Joe drink just became a cup of Joe. Is that the right one?
No. I mean, it's not the one that I've heard as the what's purported to be the real one.
Sure. B, a World War II sort of holdover. Americans were known as Joes, Brits were known as Tommies, Germans were known as Jerrys, just like this military slang. Because Americans drank a lot of coffee, it's a cup of Joe.
Right, yeah, this is one I heard, and like British people, you can still hear it today. They'll say, let's have a cuppa, as in short for cup of tea or whatever. So cup of Joe, it's like the American cuppa. Yeah, this is what I've heard.
Interesting. So that's your answer. Okay. C is from 1927. This is from an article in the Princetonian, which is just the Princeton douchebag just the Princeton douchebag newspaper, basically. Okay. There was a restaurateur named Joe who promised that his coffee could keep you up through all of your exams. So they came to know it as a cup of Joe.
Interesting.
D was the Secretary of the Navy in World War I, Josephus Daniels. And he was a major teetotaler who banned all alcohol on all the Navy ships, which meant that coffee was the strongest thing that you could drink. And so sailors would call that begrudgingly like a cup of Josephus, which slowly became a cup of Joe. And the last one that I have is from 1898, a brand of coffee called Martinson's Coffee. Joe Martinson's.
That's all right. Oh, okay. Joe Martinson.
Yeah, his name was Joe Martinson, and he used to go around the neighborhood giving, samples of coffee or selling coffee in his restaurant and all that. And people would just, because it was so small towny back then, they would just say, "Oh, it's a cup of Joe."
I like the idea of saying a cup of Martinson.
A cup of Martin, nice. And I also kind of makes you think about what didn't catch on. Like, was there a cup of Mildred or a cup of Anna? I don't it's very, what have we lost?
Yeah, for me, a cup of Russell would be whenever I make grits and add like way more water so that they're drinkable. What would a cup of Hannah be? Do you have any like signature beverages that only you drink?
Ooh, I love a Sprite and pineapple juice.
It's pretty weird, yeah. I mean, it's unique. I think it would taste fine. I don't think it tastes gross or anything, but I've never heard of anyone doing that before. That wasn't like, it's almost like a cocktail type thing where most people are probably putting some kind of alcohol in that, but you're not.
Yeah,
5%.
and just a little bit of grenadine, maybe a cherry. It tastes so good. So cup of Hannah is delicious.
Sprite and pineapple juice. Wow, great. Okay, but you're saying that all those you just listed, those are all like conjectured reasons that might be true for the word cup of joe? Interesting.
Yeah. And let's go back a little bit.
Any idea which one you think's probably true, or is it something people are leaning towards?
I think my favorite is the Josephus Daniels one, just because I love picturing like World War II sailors with a transatlantic accent saying, let's have a cup of Josephus.
Yeah, and you know, it reminds me of like AA and Narcotics Anonymous people today, where it's like that really is what they do. It's like you can't have drugs or alcohol anymore, so you just try to get really messed up on coffee and cigarettes, you know, because that's all you got. And it kind of does something. It's not pleasant what it does, but, you know, good to feel something, right?
Absolutely. And there is something to be said for the social lubricant aspect of coffee, for sure.
Is it, though? I mean, I feel so... I mean, like, coffee, it's just like... It's like anxiety generating, you know? It's interesting to think that, like, coffee is a thing you drink to make you better around people, you know? I don't know if it does for me.
Counterpoint. Who's more talkative? Somebody who's had a cup of coffee or somebody who's, I don't know, had a
nice glass of warm milk? Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it kind of peps you up, I suppose. I mean, as I said to you off the podcast, like I'm one of these coffee drinkers. I think I don't really feel an effect from caffeine anymore. So I kind of forget that it has an effect that people like, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Oh, and of course, the word caffeine does come from the word coffee.
Sure.
I'm sure that was pretty obvious.
Yeah, would have assumed, yeah.
So, of course, the Westerners aren't the only ones with a coffee culture. It's just the area that has the most prominent coffee culture. There is a very good, big coffee culture in Indonesia, for example. No surprise there. Java's in Indonesia.
Yeah, I remember reading, or maybe it was Ethiopia, I don't know, one of these African countries where they have like a pretty big ritual where they're like, they you know, they've got their pot or whatever, they pour the hot water in there, they share it, they drink it, and then they actually refill. So they do what a lot of people do with tea, but they do it with coffee. So they make new coffee on the old beans and do that 2 or 3 times, I think, you know.
Okay. I don't know that I like that.
It doesn't sound good, but, you know, I wouldn't have thought so. But the tea shop here does that with tea. Oh, and like with tea at least, I can say really lends itself to multiple pours. And the flavor isn't really changing much, surprisingly. We assume like a tea bag's used up or loose tea is used up after one. But I don't know. I mean, you assume the coffee's going to get more bitter or something. Maybe it does.
Yeah, or weaker.
Weaker, yeah, but I don't know.
So in Indonesia, you know what? Let's take a little side quest. Do you have a favorite coffee preparation that's like an international coffee preparation?
You know, again, I don't really taste a big difference. I've seen the pour over thing done. I've seen like the grind fresh machine where it's coming right to you from beans. I can sometimes tell, okay, this coffee tastes good, like it has a more complex flavor taste, but I haven't really formed an opinion. Again, I'm pretty simple about I don't like to coddle myself, so like I would hate to become like kind of spoiled to a preference in coffees, you know. I just like that I can just buy the cheapest coffee and be happy, you know. So I don't want to ruin my taste by getting addicted to actual expensive stuff, you know. But at home, for convenience sake, we have a electric kettle and we have a French press. So we just, you know, heat up the water, put the grounds in the French press, pour the water into the French press. And I don't even time it. I don't even know how long I wait to push the plunger down. You know, a few minutes, whatever, till I think of it again.
It's just instinct at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never used a French press, But one coffee drink that I got a taste for that, I mean, I'll never get it again because I don't know where to get it. But Turkish coffee is super good, super duper good. And there's this idiom in Turkish, a good cup of coffee should be as black as hatred, as strong as death, and as sweet as love.
That's so melodramatic. Just drink the damn coffee, you know? It's coffee. Like, to me, it's not, you almost can't mess it up, honestly. I know that really makes a lot of people angry, but it tastes good. It's going to be a bit bitter. It's going to have kind of some kind of like a toasted, almost burnt notes because you've cooked it a lot to make it that color. You know, like, just drink the coffee.
Speaking of, so the Indonesian word for coffee is kopi. For example, kopi tubruk is Indonesian for collision, or Tagalog for collision. And it is actually prepared with a type of roasting that we don't see in the U.S. very often. It's called torrefacto roasting. This is when, in the process of roasting the coffee beans, you actually add in some sugar to add some caramelized notes. You can find this in like Singapore, Spain, Portugal, Paraguay, pretty much anywhere Spain ever colonized. It's torrefacto coffee is a pretty popular preparation of the beans. Another cool preparation of the beans, I'm sure you may have heard of this in passing. Have you heard of kopi luwak or civet coffee?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Very memed as well, yeah. I think it was in the bucket list, and this is where everyone heard about it first. Yeah.
Is it something you'd be interested in trying?
I think maybe I did once. Yeah. I don't mind. You know, I assume it's been washed, so I'm okay with it. But I didn't find it so incredibly different that I'm like, I gotta have this.
So why don't you tell us what civet coffee is?
Yeah, so of course I don't have any research in front of me, but what I understand is that some mammal eats the coffee beans and poops them out, and then they're harvested from the poop and then made into coffee.
Yeah, it's a little animal called a civet. It sort of looks like a cross between a cat and a rat. They're native to Indonesia, of course. And they're often, not poached, but I guess, what's the word for kidnapping an animal from the wild and bringing him into your farm?
Abducted, I suppose.
Yes. He was abducted by humans. And basically the process of digestion, you feed the civet these coffee cherries, because coffee beans, they are in a fruit. It is a cherry sort of fruit, not like
right.
They're not just like bean nuts.
It's not really a bean. Yeah, it's as I understand, it's more like a pit. It's like the pit of a peach or something. Yes, this is what coffee is.
Exactly, which makes me wonder: can you make coffee out of peach pits? And
give it a shot.
I will say I do not have the energy to try. So the civet eats these coffee cherries, the beans and all. And after it goes through its digestive process, it involves this sort of the fermentation of going through the digestive tract, sort of loosening that skin around the bean and affecting it that way. All of this adds to a flavor profile that a lot of people consider very, very prized. So there are two different, I want to make you guess how much this costs. What do you think a kilo of farmed civet coffee costs?
Let's say $100.
Exactly $100.
Whoa!
No.
I don't know. I'm a big coffee drinker, I guess.
What about wild civet coffee? Like going into
so you
the
could
forest
just get
and
it
collecting
wild
it.
caught, like you're foraging for it. That's amazing.
Which is much more ethical because a lot of these civet coffee farmers do something horrible, which is force feeding the civets.
Makes sense, yeah. I'm gonna say $1,000.
$1,300.
Whoa!
For a kilo of coffee. Yeah.
$1,300 for poop. That's more than you normally pay.
The corn's in your poop. The corn's in an animal's poop.
Right.
All right. And that about does it for coffee. We'll be right back with our Eurovision segment.
Sure. Like most coffee experiences, ends with a nice poop.
Hi, I'm Jessica Ann Katina. I've always loved music and surround myself with it every day. I've sung in choirs, took digital musical classes in college, and used to work in radio. To further share my knowledge and experience with others, I created this podcast, Music Notes with Jess, in 2019. I'm so fortunate of the listener growth and hearing back from some of the celebs I discussed in past episodes. That's why now I'm ready to expand. So let's have fun taking weekly music notes of throwbacks, modern hits, and media. Thank you. Talk to you soon on Music Notes with Jess.
Down and wordy with Russell and Hannah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Welcome back to Getting Down and Wordy, the Eurovision segment.
Nice.
And this week we are talking about 2024's Norwegian entry, which was Gåte's Ulveham.
And that's from the country of Norwegia, right?
Yeah, the country of Norwegia.
I think I may have made
And
that
it's
joke last year, to be honest. I feel some deja vu.
And yet I am not allowed to talk about the time I accidentally poisoned my roommate with iced coffee.
Refer back to the other episode. It's probably on the Hosier episode, realistically.
Alrighty, so Ulveham, what did you think about this song, Russell?
Great song. I think it kind of sounds like something that'd be in like a Matrix movie. That's kind of my short and sweet. Yeah, it's got that kind of like, sounds a little bit like early aughts, like post rock kind of metalish kind of thing, you know, very high energy. Sounds like something people would have a fight scene to, something like that.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, did you read the lyrics in English?
No.
Or am I going to surprise you?
I don't know anything about it. I remember there was one band that we almost did that had like a folklore song, and I don't think it was this group. I think that was something else, right?
Now this group actually does have a folklore song.
Maybe it was this one then. Maybe I did read it a long time ago, but I don't remember now.
It's just been so long since May, so long since Eurovision. Oh my god, it's only August. Okay. So, Gåte, and I also kind of like this song. I don't think I'd be able to karaoke it.
No.
I don't think there's any world in which I can do that. It's called a kulak herding call. It's traditional Scandinavian herding call for cows. I've seen videos of like Swedes doing it in the mountains. It echoes for miles when they do this herding call. It's very culturally useful.
Cows have quite edgy taste in music, I'm learning.
They do, I know.
Who knew cows were so cool?
Well, the people who milked them.
Yeah. You get groped touching on their...
Yeah.
Poor cows. I can see why they'd have kind of like dark edgelord tastes. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. When it's like winter for half the year and the sun doesn't rise. But
I mean, like, I like the idea of like having a concert in this mountainy area where you get like mountain acoustics. I wonder if they do that. Do a lot of like concert venues in the mountains.
I think it's more suited to a performance because in a concert situation, you've got echoes from every single person out there. It'd just sound like a cacophony.
Too much interference. Cacophony. Yeah, good word.
Which, I mean, if you're a metal band like Gåte, that could be a plus for you. Although I found this a very clean song, a very... I enjoyed it a lot, and I didn't find it too busy or too much in any way. You know what I mean?
Just enough song. I agree.
Yeah, just enough song. Unfortunately, Europe didn't seem to agree. This song got 25th place, which was last place because...
last place?
Technically... Well, yeah, technically there weren't 36 in the final. There wasn't 26 countries in the final because, of course, as we know, Joost was disqualified. And recently vindicated, I should say.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, so
Yes.
as of, I think, August 12th, I think, something like that, all charges were dropped. And it seems like, I don't know how much official statements we got, but it seems like we did get a little more information, presuming it's true, which is that in his making this gesture, he probably like hit her camera. So there's like kind of a sense of shoving a camera intentionally or unintentionally. So that makes a little more sense.
And the Swedish police did come and say, sure, but there's no way that gesture could be interpreted as threatening.
Exactly. So that's why they dropped the charges, right? So no way to interpret the gesture or anything as threatening or causing any realistic fear in the quote unquote victim, right? So he's been cleared. Yeah. Again, like I think now it's only fair that they go back and take the medal from Nemo and give it to Joost. You know, I mean, that's what they do in the Olympics, and that kind of thing happens. So, come on, justice must be served.
Justice for Joost.
Yeah.
So this was last place.
Last place. There's way worse songs than this. The song we did last.
I know.
The song we did. Oh gosh. Now we're in this unfortunate Doctor Who situation where the time stream is all messed up. But the song that we will release next, I don't know, the German song I'm thinking of now, way worse than this song. Objectively.
So much worse.
Yeah.
It only got 16 points, if you can believe it.
Wow.
16! Ridiculous. I mean, it's not a nil points, but it is very I want to speak to the supervisor.
It's a small
of
number
Europe.
of points. That's for sure.
So, Ulveham means wolf's pelt, and this is based on about 1,000-year-old Scandinavian ballad. It has versions in both Sweden, Denmark. I think there's a version in Finnish. It's based on the ballad "The Maid in the Wolf Pelt." So, "The Maid in the Wolf Pelt" is an interesting story, especially if you have some familiarity with like Hellenistic mythology or Norse mythology, something like that. This beautiful maiden has an evil stepmother. Shocker!
Every time.
Yeah, and this evil stepmother was a witch who was very jealous of how much everybody loved the maiden. So she alternatively turned her into a needle, and then a knife, and then a sword. But every time she turned her into something, people still loved her. They were like, "Oh, that is the most gorgeous needle I have ever seen in my life. Wow,
it's a
that
hot
sword
needle.
is stunning." So she became, of course, incredibly jealous and ended up turning the girl into a wolf. So the curse of being turned into a wolf, and I do like this because it's sort of like, it's not the kiss of true love, like we get that sort of cliche. Instead, to break the curse, she has to kill and drink the blood of her pregnant evil stepmother, which means that she also has to drink the blood of her half-brother, which is one of the lyrics in this song I drink my brother's blood, which is, when I first heard it, I was like, ooh, I should look into this. I don't know how I feel about that. But in the context of evil stepmother, still horrifying, but a little bit less so.
Yeah, it's satisfyingly horrifying. You know, it's like it's kind of this cool metal vibe. It's cool.
Oh my gosh.
To make
Scandinavians
a good
are
movie,
so good
make
at
a
horror.
good video game, perhaps. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Customize how hot your needle is.
yeah. The part of the game where you're just a needle, that's pretty slow.
It's like a cross-stitch mini game.
Absolutely. Little WarioWare type stuff going on.
So the kulak is not the only culturally important aspect of this song. It has several other things that are just like scream Norwegian traditional folk music. One of them is called a nyckelharpa. A nyckelharpa is it looks like a violin, but make it metal. It's just a little violin with a massive thick neck, a lot of buttons. It's sort of like a hurdy-gurdy, if you've ever seen a hurdy-gurdy, but bigger.
That sounds cool. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. And also culturally relevant, but a little bit more modern, is you get this, it's called metal growling. Of course, Norway, Finland, all of pretty much Scandinavia has this very active metal scene, and a lot of death metalists use the death growl. Mm-hmm. I'm not good at it because I'm not a metal artist, but it is very prevalent, and it is, I think, pretty relevant to a wolf drinking its stepmother's blood.
Yeah. If a wolf could sing, it would probably do some kind of a metal growl. That makes sense. No, wolves can't sing. Wait a minute. It sounds like, not like metal at all. Shoot, you almost got me. You almost convinced me.
I was so close. So, now I want to talk to you a little bit about Norway, something I find very charming about the Norwegians. Did you know that Norway is number 2 in the world for coffee consumption?
Really? Who's number 1?
Yeah, Finland.
Oh, really? Huh, no.
Yeah.
No idea.
Mm-hmm. So 80% of all Norwegians drink coffee every single day. And the average, tell me you have IBS without telling me you have IBS. They average 4 cups of coffee a day.
Golly, that's amazing. That means that's the average. So someone must be drinking 8 to 10. Yeah, I mean, it's a cold country, right? This is the deal.
It is.
So you presume having a hot drink is pretty nice, I guess.
I assume. And that is definitely part of the culture. Coffee didn't make its way to Norway until the mid-1600s. But by the 18th century, it started to edge out alcohol as the social lubricant of the day. People started being like, this is actually better for conversations than alcohol. I like it.
Right, yeah. You can still drive, which is nice, too. A lot of upsides, yeah. Well, you can drive, but you have to stop to pee a lot, so it's a little tough.
Well, in the 18th century, you're not driving very far anywhere, to be honest.
That's
not
true.
A whole lot of roads.
That's true.
Or cars.
That's a good point.
By 1900, the Norwegians discovered that they actually both work together as a great team, alcohol and coffee. I read, as I was going through and kind of looking at modern Norwegian coffee culture, I came across a post that was like, how do Norwegians drink their coffee? And one person said, I drink it a cup at a time. And then somebody followed that up with, I drink it half a cup at a time. The other half is moonshine, or the Norwegian word for moonshine.
It was like the progenitor to Four Loko. They were like, I mean, were they just insane in that era? I don't know, ramping their wagon off of a cliff and so on, you know?
That's 1900. I feel like everybody in the world, especially in Europe, was just going crazy. That's why we had World War I a couple of decades later.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like this perfect storm of things working against sanity, I suppose, between that and the lead pipes and the syphilis. So yeah, not a good time to be just a sane, rational human, if that's what you were going for. Not really an available archetype at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. You're not going to find a whole lot of well folk in 1900.
That's a good point. Yeah, I would probably want to...
It's just so much lead poisoning.
I would probably want to put alcohol and coffee together if I was alive then as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
absolutely.
I mean, for me, I don't find them to be it's not like a peanut butter and jelly pairing to me. You know, it's you don't see a lot of coffee cocktails, and because they don't really, you generally want something with the alcohol that kind of counterbalances it. You don't want to, and coffee the same. You want something in the coffee that's going to counterbalance the coffee. So you got these two things that need a counterbalance, but instead you're putting them together. It's interesting.
Right. I don't drink very much anymore, or at all anymore. But I am aware of, my family drinks a lot of cocktails that are actually coffee based. Irish coffee, White Russians, Black Russians. A lot of place names on that. Also, my mom's favorite drink is an espresso martini.
Yeah, I've heard of that. That's not bad. I never knew that White Russians and Black Russians were coffee drinks. I thought it was like milk.
Yeah, they've
something.
got Kahlua, which is they used to just have straight coffee. Nowadays, they have Kahlua, which is a liquor that's flavored with liqueur that is flavored with coffee.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get why you would kind of want that on a night out because it's a night. You don't want to fall asleep in the middle of the party.
Yeah, and alcohol makes you a little sleepy, so it makes sense. Try to get caffeine and alcohol together somehow. But also, it's
absolutely
that's kind of your stopgap that the alcohol is eventually going to put you to sleep. You're playing with fire a little bit there whenever you like. This is when people like black out and like the next day they're like, oh man, what did I do?
Yeah, there's a reason you shouldn't be mixing uppers and downers on a regular basis.
True.
In 1861, a man named Peter Christian Asbjornsen, he wrote a book about how to make coffee not gross. So that's about when they started experimenting with things to put in coffee that would improve the flavor, the texture, the experience of it. And Norwegian coffee culture has a lot in common with a lot of Scandinavian cultures. There's not a whole lot that's very different. There is, I think this is very charming. Norwegians drink their iced coffee in a wine glass.
Cool.
I think that's really cute.
It's very sophisticated, that's for sure.
Extremely sophisticated, sitting out on a warm Norwegian summer day with a wine glass full of coffee. Love it. So I do have one final kind of, I would call it a qualm. I've got a qualm with Norwegian coffee culture. So as I was looking up Norwegian coffee culture, I came across a restaurant in a nearby town that is just a Norwegian coffee shop. And they had a series of candies that they suggested with your coffee. So these are all candies that are served in Norway at coffee shops. There's 4 of them, and I would like you to rank them as we go. Guess which one is the, say it's number 1 or number 3 or whatever.
Which is best to worst, or what ranking?
Yeah,
okay.
What is going to be the best one? What's going to be the worst one? What's going to be in the middle?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Out of 4, how would you rank a salted licorice herring?
You said salted licorice herring, like the fish?
Yeah, they're like Swedish fish, but they're made of licorice and they're salty.
Oh, this is not a real fish.
No, not a real fish. These are all
okay,
candies.
That changes things. Okay. I'm not a fan of licorice. I've never tried to drink it with coffee, but again, I don't feel like the flavors are in any way complementary. I'm
feeling like you're not spending enough time on the salt part of it.
I don't mind the salt part. I mean, like you might have like a salted caramel something even, so it's okay for me.
Okay.
I don't, again, not a fan of the licorice part, but I'm forever a pessimist, so I assume it can get worse. So I'll put this in, I'm waffling between second and third. I guess I'll put it in second place. Doesn't sound that bad to me, really. What else you got?
Chocolate and licorice caramels.
Again, chocolate and licorice, I feel like shouldn't be together either. So now you got 3 things that, yeah, I do think that's a little worse, but just a little. I'm gonna say that's third position.
Okay. The third one is licorice ice, which is like a peppermint bite with licorice.
Oof. I don't like toothpaste and coffee taste together, so I don't like this either. I'm gonna hope that it doesn't get any worse than this. That's my number 4.
Okay. And the last one is licorice hot pepper fire trucks.
It's spicy.
They're little licorice bites that are shaped like fire trucks, and they are filled with a hot pepper filling.
Oh man, that is worse. Like, I don't know if you've ever had to try to eat something spicy and then drink coffee, but like we used to go to Waffle House a lot when I was a teenager, and you put the Tabasco in on all of your food, and then all you got to drink with is coffee. It's not good. Coffee in spicy mouth is really not good. I would love to put that number 4 because it's definitely the worst. So yeah, I'm gonna make
definitely the worst.
Call an audible, do a mulligan. That one's got to be number 4. Everything else moves up 1. So actually, the first one, the salty licorice, is probably the least offensive to me. It's still a pretty simple taste. You're only pairing one thing. Chocolate licorice, little worse. What was peppermint licorice?
Peppermint licorice.
Very bad, but yet still not quite as bad as spicy licorice with coffee. So there you have it.
And there you have it, folks. That's our message to Norway. Do better.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to try it just to see what that experience is like, honestly, but I do not expect it would be a good experience.
No, it sounds truly, a truly repulsive experience is what that sounds like.
Totally.
Alrighty, so thank you guys for listening. We really appreciated you having us here in your ears. I hope that you were drinking some coffee while you were listening. If not, then listen again and grab a cup of coffee.
Yeah, do it again. So find other podcasts at podmoth.network. Thanks, Patsy Walker, for the theme song. Rate and review us if you like. Find us on Instagram, Getting Down and Wordy, on Gmail, gettingdownandwordy@gmail.com, and on TikTok. Just look us up.
Also, we are, TikTok too. We are also going to be guesting on another podcast in our network, the Mustachio Podcastio, about movies with iconic mustaches.
That's true.
Yeah. Russell, you want to tell everybody what we watched?
Yeah. So we watched Spy Kids 3. So listen for that. And you can go ahead and look back in the archives of his podcast and find Spy Kids 2, which we reviewed like last year at one point with him. Really great time. Really funny guy. I wish I had his gift for just making comedy from nothing, just by himself. Incredibly terrible movies, the Spy Kids movies, but somehow it's...
I don't know how we became the Spy Kids, but I'm regretting it.
It's all Meghan Trainor's fault, just like Sabrina Carpenter's. Now we know it's also Meghan Trainor's fault, so blame her. Everything bad in the world is Meghan Trainor.
Alrighty, that's it.
That's it.
Have a wonderful week.
Have a wonderful week.
And we'll see you in 2.
See you in 2 weeks.